Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed the 2025 NFL Draft, and today the Coast to Coast podcast is going to be giving their review and recap for every NFL team, and we are going to be compiling a tier list where we are going to grade each NFL team's 2025 NFL Draft.
Yeah, let's roll right in. I've got the tier list pulled up. It's just got obviously the NFL logos and the tiers: S, A, B, C, D, and F. Um, we'll see if there are any Fs. I usually doubt that for the NFL draft purposes, but
I don't think for this class.
Yeah, I didn't see any that were grossly
well,
horrible.
I mean in general, anyways, with NFL draft. I mean, it's tough to fail
Hmm.
to get an F grade in an NFL draft. Like, I mean, generally speaking, you're
Yeah,
going to get
especially
quite a bit better.
especially for one where I thought this draft was pretty deep. It wasn't top heavy.
So this is in alphabetical order, and then I've got on this tab here, I've got, in case we need a refresher on the overall holes.
Yeah, we can just pull up the team's draft so we can say each player's name.
Right. So we'll start with Arizona Cardinals because it's the first team
The
here.
first S tier.
So
It's S
real
tier.
quick, because we're
For
gonna
sure.
we're gonna do this. I'm gonna just name the players and their positions. They in the first round they took Walter Nolan defensive line. In the second, Will Johnson corner. In the third, Jordan Birch edge, and then Cody Simon linebacker. Then Denzel Burke cornerback. Then Hayden Connor offensive line, and then Katan Crawford safety. That's their haul.
Just-
And yeah,
Just to
Will
say real
Johnson,
quick,
Will Johnson
I'm
at
high
47
on
might have been the best pick in the whole draft.
I'm high on Denzel Burke. I really
Kinda
like him.
nuts.
I think he'll be a key contributor for them. I also think that, or not think, but based on my draft grades and like rankings, I had Walter Nolan as my fifth guy on my draft board. They got my number 5 overall player in the draft at pick 16, and they got around 22. I only did a top 10, but they got around my 22 to 25 ish ranked player at pick 47. That alone is insane. To be able to get those two levels of talent without having to trade up is that's draft making, because you're getting two guys who I think are genuinely going to be top 15 players at their position at some point in their career, and to do that in an NFL draft where you don't have a top 10 pick is incredible. Absolutely excellent work by the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm loving the new regime so far. I've loved all their free agency moves, draft signings. I love the way that this team is being managed right now.
Yeah, during our mocks, I said a few times that they needed the face of the defense for pick 16, and Walter Nolan is
he fits
exactly
the bill.
that.
Yeah.
Yep, he's
I mean,
exactly that.
and I'm extremely happy they didn't take a receiver here, because they were getting mocked receiver a ton at pick 16, and it made zero sense for them to take one. It's not a priority for them. They have Michael Wilson, they have Marvin Harrison Jr.
It depends
Those
at the same
are
time though.
good
Like,
enough.
if McMillan had fallen to 16, you know what I mean? Like
They
then
might have
then,
gone
then
it.
it's
They
a
might
little
have
done it.
questionable, right?
Well, Mel Kiper mocked Emeka Egbuka to them at 16.
Well,
I
Mel
would have
Kiper's a
hated
moron, and we'll talk about him in a second.
We'll get to Mil
He's a
Kiper.
complete moron. Yeah.
But he should have been retired, right?
Yeah.
With Jimmy Clausen and all that
Multiple
shit.
times.
We got to
Multiple
that. We got
times.
to that. We got to that. Even if
It's
you
a
are not
really
high
good
on
flyer
him,
pick.
and I understand why you're not high on Will Johnson, I also have some doubts about him throughout the draft process. Plenty of mocks had Miami going Will Johnson at 13. I like the idea because of his upside, but I was always talking about his downsides, and that there's a reason why he fell, right? There's some downsides to his game and some injury history, but the sheer upside that he has, he easily could have been a first rounder, and him at 47, crazy,
Pick
crazy
47
value.
feels it exceeded his floor in all of our like grades. I feel like
Yep.
we all had him at worst top 40 player in the draft.
For me, Walter Nolan and Will Johnson were the best at their respective positions on my board. Obviously, big Walter Nolan guy. He was number 3 on my overall board. which is pretty high for a lot of people. I understand that. But then Will Johnson was number 12, despite the injury. So I think, yeah, absolute steals. And they did a solid job rounding out a lot of the rough edges otherwise in this draft class, getting good depth pieces and whatnot. Obviously not starters or anything because it's day 3, but good depth. So yeah, I'm have no qualms with S tier for the Cardinals.
It's also worth noting that both of those picks could blow back on them. Nolan does have character issues supposedly. I'm not how relevant it is because he was also my DT1 on my board. But I'm just saying, like, they're not the most safe pick. I already talked about with Johnson, right? They're not the safest picks to be made, and I don't think they're gonna blow back on them. But just something to consider if someone maybe has an argument for A tier instead. But because they're not the safest picks,
I don't know if anyone's
I still place them
arguing
in S tier.
against S tier. Like,
No,
ever.
no, I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is somebody argued for A tier using those arguments, I wouldn't be against it. I'm placing in S tier. I think it's an S tier. But
I
I'm
would
just saying
simply
there's an
just call
argument
them
to be
wrong.
made. Maybe.
They're just because they're just wrong.
You're trying to play devil's advocate,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe.
Trades are
You've got
definitely
to.
a factor in this, and that's my core issue with the Falcons because that trade up. I mean, for James Pierce Jr. is great. He's a fantastic player. If you can get the effort issues out of him, and I think that they can, that's awesome. But I also question the doubling up on undersized edge rushers. James Pierce Jr. isn't undersized in height or anything, but he is lean. And not that it
Lean,
affects
yeah.
him on tape or anything, but there are those concerns translated to the NFL, and they took 2 of them in the first round. So that's concern number 1. Then concern number 2 is obviously the draft capital that they gave up. They gave up a future first, and this is an organization that they're stuck, and you don't know if Michael Penix is the guy. You hope so, but he's also played 3 games of NFL. Like, you don't know that, and you just sacrificed a potential first round pick. Well, a guaranteed first round pick in a potentially great draft class in 2026. So that's where my issue arises there. But I mean, like, they did solid otherwise. The other 3 picks were Xavier Watts, safety, Billy Bowman Jr., safety, and Jack Nelson, tackle. So I mean, for 5 picks, they did a good job there. But the 2 concerns I laid out is definitely capping them at a certain height on this tier list.
Atlanta's tough for me. I'm going B as well, just because, although they're not my favorite guys on my board, I'm talking about Walker and Pierce. Those guys could really change the defense, and it is what Atlanta needs. So I love the approach and I like the aggressiveness. So I'm still confident in putting in B just because of that. Again, that aggressiveness and that. If there's a guy you like and if you're confident about him changing that position and you need help in that position, you go for him. And I'm not totally against the doubling down, especially because I think they complement well, even though they're both undersized. But if it wasn't for the trade, for sure A or S tier, but the trade brings it down for sure, B tier.
I just disagree. I think Xavier Watts is the only good value pick they got. The rest of their guys they got at
Value,
where they should have
yes,
been
but
taken.
well,
So
it also
I would
makes
never
the
put
grade
this
better.
anywhere near the A tier. I think the player is better than the pick, but the value of the pick is not crazy because we all expected him to be
the
there.
problem, yeah.
So I would personally put it in C tier, but that's just because it's a 5-player draft. They had a horrible trade as well, and they only took 3 position groups, and the one position group that they took outside of the other 2 that they only took 1 player at isn't an impact player at all. He's going to be a depth player.
But so
I
is
would
Billy
personally
Bowman
have this
Jr.
as
I
C.
mean, that we're in round
Right.
3 and day 3.
No,
we're
I'm not
talking
saying that.
depth.
But Xavier Watts is an impact player. I think Xavier Watts is an impact player at that
He can
position.
be, but day 1, that's far from like a reality. I think. He
Okay,
could
you're
be.
just arguing with me then. It should be C then at that point. Because you're arguing against it.
No, But my point is that not. I don't think that many 3rd round or day 3 players are impact in general. I'm not saying that that's an indictment on Xavier Watts or the pick. And now, again, it's in B tier. Now, we can add B plus, B minus if we really want to, but I think this is obviously on the lower B tier. I'm not arguing that
lower
it's
B,
close
yeah.
to A like Barufi may have said that some people would. I'm not arguing that at all. It's definitely on the lower end of B.
Yeah,
And I hear
yeah.
your argument for C because I am definitely critical of some of the things that they did. But I do think that they got really solid players as well at the top.
Yeah, but I feel like you have to absolutely kill a draft to have a B level draft with only 5 picks.
All right, Baltimore got an absolute haul of picks
Baltimore,
here. Malachi Starks in the
Baltimore
first
has
round,
all the.
safety.
I love
Green,
the Malachi fit so much.
Mike Green, edge in the second. Emory Jones Jr., offensive line in the third. Teddy Buchanan, linebacker in the fourth, and the rest are day three. Carson Vincent, tackle. Belial Cone, corner. Tyler Loop, kicker. LaJonte Webster, receiver. Aeneas Peebles, defensive line. Robert Longerbeam, corner. And Garrett Dellinger, offensive line as well. An absolute haul.
It's just such
Yeah,
a Ravens draft as well, dude.
this has
Um,
to be either A or S here for me. Mike Green is insane value at pick 59. I do think there's a lot of just volume, and there's a lot of players who aren't going to be anything straight crazy for them. But I do really like Malachi Starks. I do really like Mike Green, and I actually love the LeJonte Wester pick. LeJonte Wester could be like a 500-yard receiver in his first year with the Ravens if he gets enough targets thrown his way. He's all over Shadur Sanders' tape, making pretty damn good catches on not great thrown balls. So I'm all for that pick. I think it's great value at pick 203, and I'm a huge fan of him as a player. The rest of them, they're all okay. Longer Beam probably was a UDFA in my opinion,
Oh, really?
but I do like Teddy Buchanan and Emory Jones Jr. So I would say this is probably an A level draft.
I probably agree with Jacob. I would place it an A.
Again, I'm high on this draft. Obviously, it's a good draft. It's a really big haul, which helps too. But there are definitely a couple reaches in my opinion for me, especially on day three. But I mean, it's day three, you know. So I'm cool with that. Next up, the
Uh,
Buffalo Bills, 30th overall, Maxwell Harrison corner. Then T.J. Sanders, defensive tackle in the second round. Landon Jackson, edge in the third. Dion Walker, defensive line in the fourth, and then Jordan Hancock, corner. Jackson Hawes, tight end. Dorian Strong, corner. Chase Lund, tackle, and Caden Prather, receiver.
I didn't
um,
like the Harrison pick. Um, I would prefer the Amos, 100%. Even a Siobhan Revel, I would have liked better, honestly.
But both of those guys fell
I
a
don't.
long
And
way.
a long way,
So
and I prefer both. I like both over Harrison. I like the TJ Sanders pick, and I like Deion Walker. Probably a C level draft for me though. Low B.
this has to be better than the Falcons draft.
It's
This is
better than the
easily above
Falcons.
Atlanta's
Yes.
draft.
Part of it for me is, yeah, it's early for Harrison, but he's a fine player. He's a good player. But then on day two, I think they rocked pretty hard. These are good picks, and that's going to help them a lot. But then you got Dorian Strong in the what is this? The first pick in the sixth round, I think. I think that's a steal down there for Dorian Strong. That's a third round player
Absolutely.
in my opinion. You get him three
I'm
rounds later.
I'm I'm in love with this draft, not because it's anything overly crazy. Yes, I would have preferred Trey Amos. I actually think Maxwell Harrison is a much better pick than Siobhan Revel, at least as a first rounder is. Not because of talent, but because he's a much safer pick, in my opinion.
Sure,
I had a first round grade on all three of those corners, regardless, though,
sure.
so it's not like I would have been bothered by any of them. And so they took the guy that they thought was going to be the best fit. I would have preferred Trey Amos, but that I'm not the GM of the Bills. I don't know what goes on in their office. They might be switching schemes. They might be changing something up. Good pick, good player, position of need. TJ Sanders, good pick, good player, position of need. Landon Jackson, good pick, good player, position of need. Dion Walker, same thing. Dorian Strong is insane value at another or at the same position of need. They got corner and they got depth at corner, which is what they struggled with in the playoffs. I think they addressed everything that they needed. They do need a better tight end. I don't think Kincaid is the right guy. We also just spent a first round pick on him 2 years ago. So it's not like they're going to be addressing that need right now. They're probably still going to be in on Dalton Kincaid's future. So I don't have any issues with the way they went about this draft. I actually think that they got depth and quality at both of their massive weaknesses, which was D-line and cornerback. I cannot complain about the Bills here. This is easily much more impactful than what the Falcons did. And I don't think that that's even a debate.
All right. Yeah, pretty succinct, pretty strong argument. I think for me, like in true grade, this would probably be a B plus. So But because they're going to be in the same tier,
Agreed.
I think maybe it's more attractive to move the Falcons down in that regard. But I won't do it unless everyone else agrees.
Yeah, you all know what I want them to move
I mean,
down.
we can just keep it in low B. I don't know if we have to move it necessarily.
Okay, we'll keep it on
Because
the
I mean,
back burner.
we're
We'll
gonna put we're
I
gonna put teams in between and stuff. So
sure, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But just something to consider. All right, Panthers
alright.
in the first round: Tetaroa McMillan, receiver; Nick Scourton, defensive end; Princely Umanmielen, defensive end; Trevor Etienne, running back; Latham Ransom, safety; Cam Jackson, defensive tackle; Mitchell Evans, tight end; and Jimmy Horn Jr., receiver.
Nick Scourton is, in my opinion, easily their best pick, and I I I think I was pretty vocal about the fact that I'm not the biggest Terrell McMillan guy in this draft, but this was to me his best fit,
Yes,
so I'll still consider it a good pick, right? But if I'm the Panthers GM, I for sure would have gone defense, just because
I
it needs
don't
a
mind
lot of
it.
help.
I don't mind it at all, especially
I don't mind it
now
just
that you're
because of the fit.
totally like you're all in on Bryce Young at this point. You saw what he did at the back
Yeah,
end of last season. You're like, this
yeah.
is our guy. We're going to give
You
him
give him some
every
help. I don't
opportunity.
hate it.
And again,
Yep.
and we said it on our group mock as well. This is really our or Dave Canales' version of Mike Evans, I think, for this offense. And I think that's
Yeah.
key for his offense to have that kind of a player. And so I thought it was a great pick. Again, I had Ted at my third ranked receiver,
And they
but
got Nick
easily the
Scarton.
best
I
fit
just talked
for
about it,
yeah,
so it's not like they didn't address that,
right,
right? So I
right.
think it's actually a pretty decent draft. I like
I like
Unamalayan.
every player they took. I'm high on Jimmy Horn Jr. And Mitch Evans will be good for that offense.
But overall, I think it's a very, very solid draft and what they needed. I think really.
Yeah, and it's a little early for Etienne in general, but for that team, it's good. Jonathan Brooks is who should be their number one back moving forward, and Trevor Etienne is just a really good pass defending running back. So he'll
Yeah.
get snaps for that purpose, and I like that.
I'll give it a low
I think
A. I
this is
think
also better. No, I'm still in the B territory. This is definitely better than the Falcons, though.
it's
Absolutely.
better than the Falcons.
All right,
Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Colston
You go
Loveland,
ahead.
tight end. Luther Burden, the third receiver. Ozzie Trapelo, tackle. Shamar Turner, defensive tackle. Ruben Hippolyte, linebacker. Za Frazier, corner. Luke Newman, guard. And Kyle Monangai, running back.
This is probably my favorite draft.
Really?
The
I think
Ruben pick
it's
I,
is really bad. Um, but outside of that, they got so much value. Except for Colston Loveland, and I also think Colston Loveland was not the right pick there, but it's a good fit. It'll be good for them. It's just I don't think that Colston Loveland was the 10th best player in the draft. I think he was around 20, and that's my only complaint with the pick.
the only thing with
I'm nitpicking with that.
the
I
only
don't
thing
have
with
value
draft.
on that pick.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fine. The only thing with that though is, and that's something that I argued on Niners Twitter in particular with extensively throughout this whole process is like if you're in love with a player at a certain pick, to trade down and try to
just take
gamify
him.
it is just stupid. You know what I mean? And I'm not suggesting that's what you're saying, but
The Texans tried that exact thing and it fucked them over.
exactly, it's stupid. I'm not surprised that a lot of NFL teams are higher on Loveland than Tyler Warren. And I'm not a critic of Tyler Warren. He was my tight end one and everything, but I have definitely mentioned a few times, jokingly and seriously too, though, that he is kind of like a jack of all trades but a master of none, and he is that Taysom
Yep.
Hill esque player. He's better than Taysom Hill again, obviously,
Mm.
but whereas with Loveland, there's definitely a lot more upside in certain categories of the position. And the way that the NFL
Yep.
treats tight ends
Yeah,
right
close.
now, anyway, it's at least the tight ends that are taken up at the top of a draft. You know, think of Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
Even think of Kyle Pitts, even though that hasn't panned out, right? Sam Laporta. So that makes sense to me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
three might recall my final mock where I had Loveland going to the Bears with Warren on the board,
Yeah.
and I was very pleasant that they went in that direction because I think it's a perfect fit. And I love Loveland. I didn't get to build a proper big board, but he definitely would have been top 10. Yeah, probably around the same rank as yours. And Luton Burden 39. Mocked Luther Burden going into the first round, so
I'm
definitely
not happy.
solid drop there. I think it's a great fit.
I'm not happy that they didn't take a running back, but they're also linked to Brees Hall right now. And I would, if they get
Dude,
Brees
if
Hall,
they get
this
Brees Hall,
offseason is
Jesus
insane.
Christ. Yeah,
This
Jesus Christ.
one, this offense is already going to be crazy. The receiving room is nuts, especially when you factor in Colston Loveland. The offensive line is extremely improved with the guards they brought in free agency. This is already an S tier offseason because they've made everything
It's
as
easily S
easy as
tier.
it can possibly be for Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
And the only thing that they can give him that he doesn't have now is a better running back, which they don't need. But if they could, like, hey, let's say they swing a third round pick over to get Brees Hall, and the Jets are entertaining a third round pick, maybe a third plus like a fifth or sixth, I would trade that for Brees Hall.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think that would.
If the Bears are
So
given that opportunity, 100%. And then I love the
yeah,
Trapilo pick. I love the Shamar Turner pick. This is an S tier class
another
for me.
position of need. Yeah,
Yep.
Turner should go across from Dexter, and that should be a good interior D line for a while.
If it was the first 4 picks, I would 100% be with you in S. And I do like this class, but I do think that day 3 left a lot to be desired. I'm not the biggest Zoff Frazier guy. I think he can. I think he can ball. Manon guy again addressing running back so late and like I don't know. There were better running backs on the board in my opinion. Corey Kiner who went undrafted, right? And then Luke Newman and Ruben Hippolyte. I don't know. Like I just don't know. So you know what I mean? Like that is definitely a big problem for me. Whereas with teams that are going to be in S tier or whatever, at least in my S tier, they addressed their depth much better on day 3 than I think the Bears did here. Um, you know, that's my only thing. I love
Well,
the
if you
first
guys
four
want to go
picks.
A, I'm okay with it.
I
Just
think the
because I
first four
like the
picks are
class a
good.
lot. Yeah, I'm okay
Yeah,
with
let's
that.
start out in A.
And better than the
That's
Ravens,
fine.
right?
Ahead of the Ravens,
Yeah.
yeah. Ahead of the Ravens, for
Yes.
sure.
Okay. Cincinnati Bengals. In the first round, Shamar Stewart, edge. In round 2, Demetrius Knight, linebacker. Round 3, Dylan Fairchild, guard or center, either one. Barrett Carter, linebacker. Jalen Rivers, guard as well. And then Taj Brooks, running back.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan to be honest. This is probably a low C for me as well.
It's
Nothing
a pretty
crazy,
mid. It's
just
a pretty mid class.
this is the most boring class we've talked about, and probably will talk about for the
It
day.
just might be the most. I think that's a great way to put it. The most boring.
Yeah, I think
like,
Knight's like okay, right? Nothing exciting. I love Shamar Stewart, but Shamar Stewart's not gonna make me
yeah.
put
Every
this
every
higher
pick
than
is just like
I
fine,
love
you
Shamar
know?
Stewart.
Every pick is fine.
I again I can't emphasize this enough. I love Shamar Stewart, but that pick alone is just not gonna make me put it
And
above a B,
in all
right? I'm analyzing
honesty, like
the whole thing.
obviously the Shamar Stewart's a good pick in my opinion, a solid pick. But the one that excites me the most might be Taj Brooks, which is the last pick they made, and that's not a bad thing, but it's not a good thing that your last pick in the draft.
It's not a good
so
thing. Yeah, that's the
exciting.
point. It's not a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah. So in that case,
Okay,
I
I'm
want
okay
to
with
move
C.
the Falcons. I think the Bengals draft is better than the Falcons.
I can't
I
agree with
also
that.
agree.
I can't agree with that. No, I can't agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with you, Anthony. It's 2-2 on that one.
All right, we'll leave it that way then. So then, in that case, I think we're all okay with moving down to C though, because they're more comparable
That's okay.
classes. I think.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Browns.
Cleveland. I gotta
I
say.
love the Judkins pick.
So
I actually really like this draft.
Mason
Yeah.
Graham, defensive tackle, who they traded back. Got an extra
Phenomenal
first
pick.
and another pick 36 here. Carson Schweisinger, linebacker. Quinshawn Judkins,
I love
running
Schlesinger.
back. Harold Fannin Jr., tight end. Then Dylan Gabriel, quarterback.
Pretty
then
solid.
Dylan Sampson, running back. And then they traded up, gave up, I think, their 6th and 7th or whatever, to get Shador Sanders, quarterback, in the 5th round.
Yeah, my only complaint with this draft is you can get
I hate the
Shador. I don't
quarterbacks.
care about you getting Shador, but then you get Gabriel and then you get Shador. That's my only complaint with this draft. I've
Yeah,
been pretty
they're gonna
vocal about
have-
Schlesinger.
They're gonna have
Yeah.
issues with the quarterbacks that they took in this draft. Because, well, not with Dylan. I think Dylan's gonna be humble. He'll be fine. He'll be quiet. Whatever. Won't be a locker room issue. But if he starts over Shedeur, one, he won't. But if he does, it would raise hell. And when you start Shedeur over Dylan Gabriel, it's going to look even dumber that you took Dylan Gabriel 50 picks earlier. But aside from
That's what I'm
those two
saying.
picks, this draft is amazing. If it was
It's an
only the
amazing
six
class.
picks, if you take only the 6 picks outside of the quarterbacks, this is arguably an S tier 6 pick draft. It is great value. It is great players. They're all really gonna. I think all of them are gonna pan out. I'm really high on all of them. Um, the only thing I don't like about this draft is it raises concerns for JOK, and I'm a huge JOK guy. But
I
in
think-
Yeah, but
general, this draft.
I don't know if it does because I
don't
think
think
he's
so
kind
either.
of different.
He is
I
different.
don't think so. I think
Well, number one, the rough thing about JOK is the injuries, right?
they can play together.
But I think that they are very complementary. They like to blitz
Very.
JOK a ton. And so when you have
Yeah.
JOK blitzing, you have Schweisinger back in coverage. And I think that's a really nice
And that's what he does
complementary
best.
piece.
And that's
Yeah.
what he does best.
That
Yeah.
is good.
I don't think I don't think there's really a cause for concern for JOK inherently there. They didn't take a similar type of player.
Now, if for some reason they want to get rid of JOK and replace him with Schlesinger, I think it would be a mistake. I think you get a lot more out of your defense if you pair them too.
Agreed. Yes.
I agree.
And again, I've been pretty vocal since the beginning of the draft about Schlesinger. Really high on him. I love Judkins. Fannon's pretty solid. You guys said everything you had to be said about this class. I like it a lot. Probably A
I
tier
think it's
for
an
me
A
just
tier.
because of quarterbacks. Yeah, just because of
I
quarterbacks.
even did not mind the Dylan Gabriel pick because the entire draft up until Shedeur Sanders' selection is indicative of, in my opinion, a front office that knows exactly what they want to do. They were decisive about passing on Travis Hunter and
yeah.
selecting Mason Graham and a first-round pick. Again, like that was the argument some people were having. Like, if you wanted to go defensive line, why not just go dual card to second roll? Well, you're getting an extra first-round pick next year. You're getting a day 2 pick this year that was high that you took a running back with. Like, that's awesome. But the whole thing, like, it just screamed consistency, and they knew exactly what they wanted to do up until that pick, which, again, there's a lot of conspiracy surrounding it and surrounding the
my
video that they showed in the war room as well. This seems like ownership stepped in and said, you need to draft Shedeur Sanders right now. That is the pick. I don't
There's
care.
a report. There's a report that 20 NFL teams told, or their 20 NFL owners told their GMs they have to take Shedeur.
Yeah, see, there you go, right? And that to
And
me,
I think Miami's one. I feel like Miami was one of them because Greer and McDaniel confirmed in the press conference they were looking into Shedeur. So
I hate that when owners interfere in that way with
I hate it.
and like, again, we love this class for them. I like, again, you can have questions about the Dylan Gabriel pick. I don't have issues with that. But I don't mind taking taking a quarterback in the third round that you think has some upside, that has a fit in this scheme. Like, I don't mind that at all. But again, the pivot, it feels like, and
Yeah, my problem is not the Gabriel pick; is the Shedeur pick.
Right.
It
right.
it's just double. Yeah.
If
yeah,
you
that's my
if you
problem with
liked Shedeur, you would have taken him over Gabriel, right?
it. Exactly.
And I just think it's such a shame because of how well everything else went for them. It just felt like everything was falling right into place until then.
Wow.
And ownership completely stepped in and rigged the whole thing. And we're going to be talking about Shedeur a lot. And a lot of the conversations are not going to be very good. So I don't want to say too much else right now, and we could just move on. Because we're spending, I don't want to spend as much time as the TV broadcast took on that pick. I mean, I counted the amount of
Jesus, yeah.
I counted the amount of picks that were announced while they were still talking about Shedeur Sanders and taken away from those players that also deserved recognition for being drafted. Took away from their limelight. They did not mention them at all afterward. Five players.
To be fair, all right, to defend the NFL here, okay, Nikola Jokic got announced during a Taco Bell commercial, okay.
Yeah,
Well, some players.
but he was also in the second round.
Some players do get announced in the middle of a commercial. Yes, that happens in the NFL draft too. But they make a point to recap the past few picks.
They do, yeah,
They didn't do that right there. They just completely forgot about those players, I feel like. And that's such a disservice. Mel Kiper should have been long gone, and we all agree. I think everybody
Mel
hates
Kiper's
him.
an embarrassment to NFL.
He's an embarrassment. He's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't know how he still even has any semblance of a reputation to be on these shows anymore. It makes no sense. There's so many brighter minds
The only
that are more capable of that job.
yeah, the guy who should have Mel Kiper's job is Daniel Jeremiah. He should have Mel Kiper's job.
Either DJ or Schrager. I like Schrager a lot as well.
Yeah.
I like Schrager as a personality. I don't think his NFL takes are that crazy.
Not
I
great,
actually think-
but isn't he stepping away? Like he's trying to limit his
From Good Morning
presence.
Football.
Yeah. I don't know if that's
Yeah, I'm not sure
For
about
every-
Schrager, but for sure DJ should have Mel Kiper's spot. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
he's the one that I
Also,
respect the most
just-
for sure.
What's
I like
not-
Orlovsky a lot as well.
I like Arlovsky. He's just not good at quarterback takes, surprisingly.
Jaden Daniels.
But no,
I actually
Yeah,
think
that
he's
is
pretty decent
true.
at quarterback takes. He was, yeah.
I don't mind. I get it. It's the Milrow thing, right?
yeah.
I
But
understand.
what
that.
if he's right? But what if he's right?
At the same time, it's much.
I like Milrow more than Sanders for upside.
Well, and
if you're gonna
that's
bench a guy for
and
a
that's
year,
the thing, right?
Yeah.
I respect that decision, and obviously the Seahawks draft pick as well. I respect that a lot more to take, and we talked about it too. TFG had mentioned it on Twitter. Like you're making that pick to take a tradesy player that you think you can develop into something better,
Yeah.
versus a guy who doesn't have that all that much. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
You're kind of getting what you're seeing, right? And
Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel's ceiling in the NFL is not as far off as people think.
I'm 100% with you. There was a stretch of time in the pre-draft process that I had Dylan Gabriel higher than Shedeur Sanders, and ultimately that changed, but they're not separated by much for me. Shedeur is only 91st on my big board. I mean, but anyway, I think we spent too
yeah.
much time on it. But I am 100% happy to have A. I would say
I
right there.
have between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, between the two.
I agree.
Okay.
I would also say that in the light of all the Mel Kiper shit, that Skip Bayless is going without enough criticism because Skip Bayless on Twitter has been horrible.
I think at this
Yeah,
point
but it's
everyone just
because Mel
expects
Kiper
it.
is, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Everyone knows who Skip is.
Yeah.
He's just awful.
I think, okay, Dallas Cowboys, right? I am for sure, between the four of us, the person that likes the Tyler Booker pick the most.
So real quick. Tyler Booker
Yep.
guard, Donovan Ezraku edge, Siobhan
Yep,
Revel Jr.
yep.
corner, Jaden Blue running back, Shamar James linebacker, Johnny
Crazy
Cornelius
aspect.
tackle, Jay Toya defensive tackle, Phil Maffa running back, and Tommy Aking-Basot defensive tackle.
Yeah, I love the Booker
I
pick.
love this draft class. This draft class
yeah.
is so good.
I like it a lot. The Booker pick is...
This is my next S tier.
Interesting.
I probably agree. I like Ezraku a lot. Siobhan Revel 76 is
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's
Bonkers.
mind-boggling.
Ezraku and Reval are insane steals.
Yeah, and I can't say it enough. I said it time and time again during our mocks that I'm a big Booker guy. It has everything to do with Dallas, I think. I like this draft class a lot. I would give it an S.
Jaden Blue.
Siobhan Revel
in
being a
round
top 5 pick. Yeah, Jaden Blue. Yeah, exactly. Shamar James is not bad either. And
Third-round
look,
talent.
Phil Maffa passes the name check. Okay, that's it. Crazy name. Passes the name
Good
check.
name.
Yeah, and
He's also pretty solid.
And the Tyler
Yeah.
Booker pick as well. It sparks the same thing that I said earlier. If you're in love with a guy at that pick, don't
You just get him,
just take him.
and-
Because
Yeah.
once
Who cares
once
if
he
Medium's
pans
going to call
out,
him a
like,
reach?
yeah, exactly. All right. So are we going S or?
I'll put an S behind Cardinals.
All right,
Yeah,
Denver.
man, Broncos.
Jahdae Barron, corner. RJ Harvey, running back. Pat Bryant, receiver. Savion Jones, defensive tackle or edge, I guess. He
Oh my
plays
God.
everything. Quandarius
Jacob.
Robinson,
know.
defensive end. Jeremy Crawshaw, punter. And Caleb Lohner, tackle. Or tight end, rather.
I love the Barron pick. Pairing him with PS2. You guys know how much I like Barron. I would have been happy with him with Miami at 13. But the rest of the draft, I like Pat Bryant. It's just the rest of the draft doesn't do a whole lot for me personally. But let me hear you guys' thoughts.
Well, then you take a punter. Like I just don't. get doing that.
A
I
bit
don't
high,
care.
right? Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's Baron. It's Baron that I love the Baron pick. I love Baron. Pat Bryant is I like Pat Bryant, and other than that, it's just I'm not there with it.
This is just such a C tier draft in my opinion.
It's mid. It's mid as well.
I like the R.J. Harvey pick a lot.
It's
Yeah, but
early
it doesn't do enough for me, you know.
I mean,
Me
because
personally.
he went before Caleb Johnson, didn't he?
he did, but Caleb
Yeah, I'm
Johnson,
pretty sure he
and
did.
in fairness, because
It wouldn't fit. It
I
wouldn't
was
fit.
I was the biggest Caleb Johnson glazer of all time, but he
It
needed a
wouldn't fit.
specific offense to work in, and I think Pittsburgh
Yeah,
was
yeah.
basically the perfect offense for him.
Like a Baltimore of sorts, or
Yeah,
you know,
Baltimore,
something like that.
Pittsburgh, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But I mean,
Yep.
RJ Harvey's also a really solid back, and I think pick 60 is not early for him. I think that's more than okay. I, man, it's tough because like, I did not get to any of these people at the end here. Oops, like I just don't know who they are. I didn't watch the film. Obviously, didn't watch the punter. But the front four picks, I am a fan of. I like, and I see how they're going to be implemented. I get it. You know what I mean? And those are the picks that matter more. So I would say B. Definitely at the bottom of B right now, but I wouldn't say B minus either necessarily. Just that the Panthers and Bills
If it's
stretch
me
are better.
ranking, I would put it between Atlanta and Cincinnati. Me personally.
All right. Other thoughts?
But let me hear what everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also in. No, I'm behind Atlanta here. I think
Really?
Atlanta's draft is better. Yeah,
Wow.
Atlanta
if
got
Jacob-
two. Atlanta got two impact players that are like extremely good at their respective
And
positions
Watts.
that I like a lot
And
more.
what?
And Watts.
Okay.
That's just
Yeah,
more
I
than
prefer
what the
Atlanta's
Broncos
as well, I
did, in my
think.
opinion.
All right. Well, I think out of
That
pure
being said, I would
average,
probably have the Bengals in the top.
out of pure average, I would say it's here because I wanted them a whole letter grade higher.
That's okay.
All right.
Detroit.
Detroit's Tyleek Williams, defensive tackle. Tate Ratledge, guard. Isaac Tesla, receiver. They traded up for quite a bit, actually. Miles Frazier, guard. Ahmed Hassanin, edge. Dan Jackson, safety. And Dominic Lovett, receiver. It's crazy that they got a better receiver in the 7th round than they traded up for in the 3rd. Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah. But if there's ever a name that's ever passed the name check, is Isaac Tesla.
I guess so.
As
but
a receiver, too.
I just don't like.
It's
that
way down
pick-
by Elon, but in general, that's a goated name.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
pick,
yeah.
just the pick alone is not good in my opinion. Now, who am I to know? But whatever. It's not good
I love
in
the
my
Rutledge pick.
in general. But then to trade up and select him too when he was definitely going to be available later. I'm pretty damn sure of that. That to me is that alone is an F pick. Like that is just awful all the way around. I think. Nothing against the player, but just where that's going. But I mean everything else I think is pretty solid. Miles Frazier
I love
is
Tyler
really
Williams.
solid
I
at that.
love Redledge,
Yeah,
Frazier.
I think the other three in these
I
top
say this
four
is
are
a high B
fantastic.
tier pick or draft class.
I don't know about high B, but definitely B for sure.
Definitely a B+.
I'm with you. I would have
And
it.
just
I would have it
building their team
behind.
the right way, man. Just trenches.
Sure,
And Carolina.
I would have it. I would have it behind both of them. Yeah, but again, Buffalo,
If you go
Carolina
off,
are high
if you go off
Bs.
by
Yeah.
talent, if you go off by talent, sure. But how I like teams to be built, like their foundation, Detroit for me is for sure A. But if you're going off of talent, then sure, I understand.
Dude,
but
see,
I
your
love how they
bias
built it.
is going crazy right now because you're gonna say that for Detroit. You want to say, oh, foundation. You want to say, oh, need also has value. The Bills got talent, foundation, and need all in one with all of their
which is
picks.
why I don't disagree with the B pick, but I just did not like the Harrison pick. Like I was pretty vocal about that. I
That's
just did not
fair.
like the Harrison
That's
pick.
fair. All right. Green
Yeah,
Bay,
but their 5th round pick was better than the Lions' 3rd round pick that they traded up for.
Yes,
Well,
and
boo-hoo.
again, that to me is just a big stain on their entire class because there were better players available if you're going to trade up. They traded up a lot. Like, didn't they give up multiple third-round picks to go up to the top
Yeah.
of the third?
Two, I
Like,
think.
nothing
I
about
think.
that. Not every little thing about that was just awful in my opinion. So, yeah, big stain on the draft for me. But here's Green Bay's class: Matthew Golden, receiver; Anthony Belton, tackle; Savion Williams, receiver; Baron Sorrell, edge; Colin Oliver, edge; Warren Brinson, defensive tackle; Micah Robinson, corner; and John Williams, offensive tackle.
This is a C tier draft.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's low B. Just because I like the Matthew Golden pick so much.
I like the Matthew Golden pick. The rest of it doesn't move me.
No, I agree with you on that part.
Matthew Golden is a great compliment, I think, for
I had
that
it in my
whole
final mock
offense.
as well.
Um,
I love the fit.
and they look like they have a whole roster of slot receivers, and to get somebody that has a lot of versatility, who can run slot but can run a lot of outside, and is a great separator, great after the catch, really solid hands. I think that was a really like an A+ pick in my opinion. And again, he was my best receiver
Oh
as
my
well
God.
in the class. Anthony
Oh
Belton,
my
I think,
God.
was a fine enough, solid pick in the second round there too. So that was pretty cool. Savion Williams made no sense to me. That is like antithetical to the Matthew Golden selection in my opinion. Every
Right,
little thing
yeah.
about that was so antithetical. Drop issues, can't play outside, is only a gadget type of player. Like, it made no sense to me. And then that kind of,
Just adding another receiver 3-ish
yeah.
to a room filled with those.
And then
And
that was kind of the trend, Jacob, that you alluded to, where after that point, it just kind of like everything was a little questionable.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with
Leave it
C.
to the Packers to do the exact inverse of what they normally do. Take the sure thing pick first, and then do the questionable ones for later instead
Yeah,
of the other way around.
yeah.
yeah, but where do we put this? Like, really don't know. I'm thinking C as well, right? Because I don't know if I prefer it
It's
over
definitely C. I think
behind
so.
Atlanta. I think ahead of Cincinnati.
I think behind Atlanta as
Agreed.
well. I mean, honestly, like, I might prefer
It's below
Cincinnati's
Cincinnati for me.
too. Yeah. Because, like, Cincinnati was just
Yeah, honestly,
boring, but there are more picks there that I enjoy. Or
Yeah,
that I
and
think are
Demetrius
fits.
Knight is better than anything else Green Bay did. So yeah,
Yeah.
valid.
Houston. They traded down because Donovan Jackson and Emeka Egbuka were taken. Jaden Higgins, receiver. Ariante Ursary, tackle. Jalen Noel, tackle or
Sure, yeah.
receiver. Jalen Smith, cornerback. Woody Marks, running back. Jalen Reed, a lot of Jalen's. Safety. Graham Mertz, quarterback. Keontae Hamilton, defensive tackle, and Luke Lachey or Luke Lackey, not sure how to pronounce that, tight end.
Lackey's crazy.
I'm
more
not
fun
sure.
if you
Is it
say
Lachey
Lachey.
or
No, it's
I don't
just
know.
Lackey sounds funny.
I've heard it pronounced both ways. So I'm truly I don't know.
I think it's a pretty solid class, but nothing
This
more
is
than that.
very hot and cold. Me neither. I
Probably needed more
actually kind
trenches,
of
right?
agree.
Needed more trenches,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
But like, and again, it's very hot and cold here. Like I don't mind trading down when your guy is off the board. Like that makes perfect sense. You know, you're not in love with anyone at this spot. The guy who you wanted was just taken right before you. You tried to trade up for the other guy. It's not working out. So trade down. But they didn't get much in return for that trade down. Like you're trading down out of the first round, and you're trading down. It's not much, but to pick 34, like that's a whole 10 picks back. You know.
And then
Um,
after the fact, the Falcons traded the first round pick.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, sure thing. So that was like a head scratcher and it's weird and whatever, but then the pick comes and it's Jaden Higgins and that's cool. Like the first three picks I'm a fan of. I like, getting both of the Iowa State receivers. I think it's a cool little thing too, and they both do different things, right? It's very versatile for them now, that receiving core. And Ursary is one of the guys that I'm kind of a fan of too. I like him quite a bit. I wanted the Niners to take him, so I think that's solid. Maybe a little bit early, but again, think about this tackle class. It's no surprise that he went 48. But everything else, like I just don't care about at all. You know. a bunch of depth pieces to me.
Look at this Jacob guy.
Yes, I thought
Did you go under 3.5?
they were trading up, and I don't remember who exactly was on the board, but I'm like, they got to be trading up for this guy. And then they trade up for Woody Marks. I'm like, man, if you're trading up for a running back, like why are you going for Woody Marks? You know, like there were a few other guys available at that spot, and so that was confusing to me too, for sure.
Real quick, sorry, distraction. I have the Texans as a high or a B plus grade draft, but I just hit my first ever straight bet as a 21-year-old because it's now midnight. So,
Happy
boom,
birthday!
I had the Warriors minus 2.5. They were winning by 1, and the Rockets had possession of the ball with like 12 seconds left.
Oh yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
okay.
They
Yeah,
had
yeah,
possession of the ball with 12 seconds left coming off of a
Yeah,
timeout.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm fucked. The only way that I can win this leg or win this bet is if they shoot it with time on the board for some reason or another. I don't know why the fuck they shot it
Yeah.
with time on the board,
And
but
then
they
they
did.
foul.
So they shot it with time on the board, missed, and then they fouled. And of course, it was Jimmy Buckets. So of course he's gonna hit all his free throws because he hit 5 free throws out. Or sorry, he hit technically speaking 12 of 12 today, but he hit the last 5 that I was watching that were like keeping the parlay or the bet alive. And so he hit his 2 free throws, and then Fred VanVleet ran down the court to chuck up a 3 and missed it, and the parlay hit or the bet hit because I had minus 2.5, not 3.5.
Nice, very cool. That's exciting.
And I told you to take
Yeah.
3.5, so almost
yeah,
fumbled.
got lucky. I got
Almost
lucky.
fumbled, yep.
Close
I told
call.
you to take 3.5.
All right. Yeah. So Texans class. I can't agree with B plus. I'm definitely lower on it than that. It's not a C though.
That lower as well, yeah.
It's not a C.
It's just low B, I think. I think it's just low B
Yeah.
because I definitely have it over all of those in C. So
Well, I think I would have Denver higher than that, but that's okay. Indianapolis Colts. In the first round, Tyler Warren, tight end. Then JT Tuimoloau, edge. Justin Wally, corner. Jalen Travis, tackle, guard. DJ Giddens, running back. Riley Leonard, quarterback. Tim Smith, defensive tackle. And Hunter Wooler, safety.
This is a really solid B.
it's very yeah.
like
I
this
was
draft
just
a
about to
lot.
say that
I think
they
so, too.
they did what they had to. They landed their guy at 14, and
Holy
it's
shit,
a
the
pretty-
Marlins are in extras right now with the Dodgers.
That's big.
Wait. Last time I checked, it was 5-5. I forgot
Please
to check
beat the
again.
Dodgers.
It's still 5-5.
Do the Giants.
Wait,
a
hold on.
favor.
I'm gonna stream it.
So
Not for
yeah,
the not
I
for
mean,
the
Tyler
pod.
Warren is definitely a home run for me, especially for the Colts. You know, that seemed like the perfect
Yeah,
fit, really. Nothing else is a
100%.
home run, but everything else is solid. Like, even stuff in day 3. Like, I see what they're doing with their depth. And even with, like, Riley Leonard, which, you know, potential UDFA, potential, you know, he was taken in the round 6, obviously, but he is very Daniel Jones-esque, I think. You know, a good rushing upside, you know, can't make every throw in the world, though, you know, needs to improve as a passer type of thing. So that made sense to me because Daniel Jones is their backup quarterback right now. And so, you know, you could move on from Daniel Jones, who's an expensive backup, right? And you have a guy who can sort of fly in and replace that on a dime, you know, so yeah, solid stuff. But again, nothing that wows you outside of their first round pick. But if your first round pick doesn't wow you, then you're probably doing something wrong at the end of the day, I think. So I'm happy with
Right.
ahead of Houston, but behind the other 3 in B.
I
Maybe
agree.
even ahead of Detroit.
Yeah, I
but,
completely agree. Maybe I was just about to mention maybe out of Detroit, but I'm okay with it right there.
okay.
I'm cool with a B on that one.
Okay.
All right. Moving on, Jacksonville Jaguars. I know this one might be a little bit of a debate for this this draft haul here, but the Jaguars traded up to 2nd overall for Travis Hunter, receiver corner. Caleb Ransaw then,
Oh my God.
safety. Wyatt Milam, guard. Bashal Tudin, running back. Jack Kaiser, linebacker. Jalen McLeod.
McLeod.
Yeah, I always McLeod. That's how you pronounce that, right?
It's
McLeod.
McLeod.
I'm pretty sure that's the proper pronunciation of that last name. I always get it wrong, but I think it's McLeod actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Raywan Lane and Jonah Monheim and LaQuint Allen Jr.
Let's go.
The first half
RBI.
the first half of this draft class, like through Jack Kaiser pick, I am a big fan of. I think that they did a really great job. Now, I don't have enough to comment on the back end here, except for Jonah Monheim. I think he's a solid player. Not going to start right away, obviously, but a solid depth piece for the interior offensive line. And we've had questions about their line, but Wyatt Milam is a really great pick, I think. Maybe a little bit early for
Milam.
Caleb Ransaw, but he's a solid defensive back, I think. Tootin is, I think, going to fit right in with the current running backs that they have. Now, what does that mean for Bigsby? I'm not sure. Or even ETN, really, I guess. And then the Travis Hunter, I like that. Maybe you don't care for the trade up, I guess, but they're in love with that player and they're willing to sacrifice a future first round pick for that player. But I think that if they addressed everything correctly in this draft, that they are in a position to be really successful in 2025. They're gonna have fairly easy schedule. The AFC South is kind of a shit show anyway for the most part. You got a lot of teams that are just trying to figure it all out. You know what I mean?
It's a clusterfuck.
Yeah, it's wide open. And I'm just a fan of getting that type of superstar caliber player and knowing exactly what you're going to do with him. And it seems like that's the case, at least in the interviews and whatnot that the general managers had and stuff. So I'm quite a big fan of this draft class. I would say A, but we'll see how Jacob thinks.
I think A purely because I like the first three picks, and especially Milam. I think Milam is a phenomenal value.
Yeah.
I like Travis. You guys know I like Travis more than Jacob, but anyway.
No, I still like the pick. It's not a bad pick. He's extremely talented. I don't see the value as much as other people do.
I'm still giving this an A. It's a pretty filled class. There's plenty of guys coming in and competing. Yeah. Low A for me.
I might. Between the Ravens, that's a tough one. I think they're fairly close.
I think the Ravens are ahead. Yeah, but I do think the Ravens are ahead.
I could argue either way, so I'm okay with that, though. But, yeah.
Okay.
Good job, Jacksonville, and first-year head coach and general manager. He is the Gladstone. James Gladstone? I think it's James. He's the youngest general manager in the NFL. He's only 34. God. All right. Kansas City Chiefs.
This is S tier, bro.
They selected Josh Simmons, tackle. Then Omar Norman Lott, defensive tackle. Then Ashton Jaloti, edge. Noel Williams, corner. Jalen Royals, receiver.
That's crazy.
Jeffrey Bassett, linebacker. And Brashard Smith, running back. And I guess the thing that I'll say is why does the NFL let the Chiefs and the Eagles keep getting away with stuff like this? Like, how does Josh Simmons fall to 32?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
And then Norman Law, Gillett's fantastic. No Williams, Jalen Royals. It's ridiculous. That's close.
It's so good.
And Noel Williams, I said it as that pick was being made. Like, that just felt like a Chief type of player.
It's ridiculous, bro. It's ridiculous.
So, unfortunately, they're in S. Do we prefer them?
I was so hoping Miami would somehow get him as well. Just ridiculous pick.
Where a couple of teams have said, fuck them picks, the Raiders said, give me some more.
Give me them picks. And
they refused to make a pick early on in day two. They traded back multiple times, just acquired an absolute haul of players. So you would hope that a lot of them panned out. At
Charles Grant, 99.
But their draft went Ashton Janty, running back, then Jack Besh, receiver, Darian Porter, corner, Caleb Rogers, tackle, Charles Grant, tackle, Dante Thornton Jr., receiver, Tonka Hemingway, defensive line, J.J. Pedges,
Bagwis,
defensive tackle, Tommy Millot, quarterback, Cam Miller, quarterback, and Cody Lindenberg, linebacker. So it's a little goofy at the end there, but I do like the way that they ended with Cody Lindenberg. But then the the 2 quarterback picks at the that's bizarre, but again, it's the 7th round. I don't care too much, but I mean they went out and they got some impact players, I think, on days 1 and 2 here.
I love the Grant pick.
Yeah, the Grant pick is cool. Develop him. He's from a small school and stuff, but they think that they're confident in that, right? Jancy obviously is fantastic. That's where a lot of people expected him to go. Jack Besh is a nice physical receiver, something that they really don't have, I don't think, on this
Gil
team.
Rogers.
Yeah, so again, it's tough to fail when you have so many picks, but I think that they still, they did a solid job, and I think it's worth noting.
Low S or high A for me, I think.
I would say it's an A. I don't love it as much as the Bears, I think.
I probably agree.
Or even the Browns, honestly.
I agree.
But I'm okay with this.
I have it over the Browns. Personally.
I have the Browns higher. Browns also got a first-round pick next year. We got to factor that in.
Right.
That is true, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Chargers.
LA Chargers, they started with Omarion Hampton, running back, then Trey Harris, receiver, Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle, Kyle Kennard, edge, Keandre Lambert-Smith, receiver, Oronde Gadsden, the second tight end, Branson Taylor, tackle, RJ Mickens, safety, and Trickwise Bridges, safety.
It feels like just one of the other C tier classes.
Really?
I like the Hampton pick. I don't like Najee, right? So I'm glad they went in that direction.
I love the Trey Harris pick, though.
Trey Harris, yeah, but Kennard, I don't know.
In the 4th round,
I don't know.
In the 4th round, that is good. Kyle Kennard in the 4th, that's good. Trey Harris, I liked a lot more than a lot of people. He was my receiver 4. Yeah, I had a first-round grade on him. I think that pick at 55 is fantastic. I was waiting for him to. I mean, Malin and I were both waiting for him to go.
This is at minimum a B draft for me.
At minimum,
low
yes,
B for me.
Absolutely at minimum. I would argue an A.
Me.
I like a lot of the stuff up here. I even like a flyer pick with Gadsden the second if you feel like you can coach him up. And obviously tight end is a need for them. But waiting I guess is questionable a little bit. But I mean these first 4 picks are great. I like doubling up at the end here. Taking a flyer on this one position, and you think you'd hope one of them can develop, or maybe both become depth pieces. I like that. I'm a fan of their approach, and I think that this regime with Harbaugh has done a fantastic job in the past 2 drafts. I'm pretty sure the Chargers graded highly for me last year too.
I'm okay with it right there. I'm not gonna say no. I would personally I would place it below the Lions probably.
Ooh.
But
I would have it. See, I have the Bills draft higher than this one.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Is this a walk-off? Yeah.
Yeah. Good thing I bet on the Dodgers.
Just damn it.
Rufy, I got the Dodgers at minus 120.
It's okay.
Okay. We're pretty split here.
It is okay. You can put it there. I'm not gonna say no to it.
I like Buffalo's draft more.
I like Buffalo's more as well. Yeah, no, behind.
All right, LA Rams. Wow, they've still got the old logo.
Why is it the St. Louis logo?
That's funny. They traded out of the first round. And so in their first pick was 46th overall. They took Terrence Ferguson, tight end, Josiah Stewart, edge, Jarquez Hunter, running back, Ty Hamilton, defensive tackle, Chris Paul Jr., linebacker, Konata Mumfield, receiver. Not a big class. They did get a future first. You got to keep that in mind. Yeah, might be.
That's the best thing about their draft, it feels like.
It's okay. I mean, this has got to be a low C just because they got 0 impact players. I like Josiah Stewart. I like Terrence Ferguson. They should both be good rotational pieces. But if that's what you're saying about your top 2 picks and the rest of it is just kind of eh. Plus, you have Chris Paul, so you know you're not winning the Super Bowl this year. Or the NBA Finals, for that matter.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh.
What's funny, though, is that Chris Paul Jr., I'm surprised that they waited so long to take linebacker, off-ball linebacker, because Chris Paul is probably going to start for them. Like, that linebacker room is just empty. And that's why I mocked Carson Schweitzinger to them in the first round. And ultimately that didn't happen, right?
I think I did as well. Let me check.
But it just made so much sense, to take a linebacker early. And I get it, afterward, after those top two fall, you're like, is there really anything worth taking at these spots? We did
I
criticize
had
the
Schwarzenegger as well, yeah.
we did criticize the
In the
Demetrius
final
Knight
one.
pick by the Bengals, so that makes sense, I guess. But I don't know. I like Chris Paul Jr. He's definitely undersized, but I think he can ball. I think he can play. If he gets a little bit more bulky, I think that would help too. But the fact that he's going to start and he was your 6th round pick, that's concerning. I think just as far as their own team's depth, not necessarily the pick. Terrence Ferguson, I think, is going to plug and play. Like as soon as Higbee's out of the building, that's the next Tyler Higbee really for this offense. So I don't mind that pick at all either. But again, it's not like crazy. It's not wow. Look at this value. It's just very okay. So I'm good with C. I'd have
Yeah.
this behind Denver personally.
I agree. And you got to count the future first, right? So where do
Right.
you go with this?
Right.
But I would go below. I'm still going below Green Bay, honestly.
Okay.
Just kind of lackluster, really. I think
This might be a D tier draft.
So
yeah.
that's an interesting question because then you're suggesting that it wasn't a fine draft. It was not good. Like they could have done a lot better, basically.
Well, it's not that it was a fine draft in the sense of the picks that they
It's
took,
just that the team has holes,
but
right?
when
They
you
can't
fact,
afford to. I don't
well,
know.
it's not that. I don't think that has anything to do with it. It's not. It's a fine draft with the picks that they took, but if it's a fine draft with the picks that you took and your first pick is as late as it was, that's
Yeah.
already detracting a lot. So I think the fact that they had such little high-end picks and all of it was really late has to drop it down to D tier for me. Because Terrence Ferguson is a fine pick. But if Terrence Ferguson is also the best player on your draft, you clearly didn't have enough draft value in the first place. And yes, they gained a first round pick. So if we count them gaining first round pick, then I guess we put it in C. So yeah, I forgot
Okay,
that we're factoring that
I'm
in.
okay with C then. I'm okay with C. Low end C.
Because if you ignore the first round pick, it's a D tier draft, I believe, personally speaking.
All right. Moving on, Miami Dolphins. They selected 13th overall. And they got Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Jonas Savaiinaya, guard, Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle, Jason Marshall Jr., corner, Dante Trader Jr., safety, Ollie Gordon the second, running back, Quinn
I
Ewers,
love that golden
quarterback,
pick.
and Zeke Biggers, defensive tackle.
Before I talk about the actual players that they picked, what I like most is the positions that they picked. They clearly thought that this was a soft team last year, and they added a lot of weight to this team. Even in the running back room, Ollie Gordon is going to be a big physical back that we don't have, right? I love the Savannah pick. I love the Kenneth Grant pick, simply because Grant is so good paired up with Zach Sealer on paper, right? Phillips could also be a big body on that line, and Anthony Weaver, you know, coming from being a
I think
D-line
this is
coach.
another. I think this is a really solid draft. I'm giving
I
this
think
an
it's a
A
solid
tier.
draft. I think it's either a high B or a low A. I like this draft class a lot.
All right.
And Dolphins fan base is insufferable. We're already talking about Quinn Ewers being the starter quarterback. It's going to be a long off
Look,
season.
I mean, to take him as a flyer pick at the end in the mid seventh, I mean that's good. Like I
I don't
don't
mind
mind
at
that
all. I don't
at
mind at
all.
all.
You
No,
know
I'm
what
not
I mean?
complaining about the pick. I'm complaining about the fans. Don't get me wrong.
Why
It's a good
we
pick.
talked about a lot of quarterbacks that might go undrafted in this class, but a big reason why I suggested that a lot of them would be taken 6th or 7th round is just because you can take that flyer pick. You have that exclusivity. You don't have to fight for them in the UDFA class.
Yep.
But taking a flyer at the back end for a guy that could have that has upside in his game that we've seen before, we've seen flashes and whatnot, and if you can hone into that, become a future starter in the NFL or at
Yep.
least a solid backup, right? So yeah, I liked that. I liked the Zeke Biggers pick as well. I think they killed the top and bottom of this draft quite a bit.
I thought it was pretty
Agreed.
Kenneth
solid.
Grant and Jonas
The
Vainaya are
middle,
fantastic. And then Ollie Gordon to Zeke Biggers, I think, are really good as well.
And Savannah has
not
yeah.
not mentioning the Jordan Phillips pick is kind of cringe. I like that pick a lot at
I,
143.
I I like Phillips a lot. And I was
Yeah,
just
at
gonna say about
143.
Savannah. Savannah changes. I mean, both top two picks changed the trenches a lot. But Savannah, imagine this offensive line being from left to right: Patrick Pohl, Liam Eichenberg, Brewer, and then James Daniels and Austin Jackson. And you replace Liam Eichenberg by Savannah, like that's a huge upgrade on paper, right? So, very happy with the pick.
I didn't mention the Jordan Phillips pick because I'm not as high on him. I think he's a fine player, but the fourth, fifth round was about my range for him.
That's fair.
And we actually got a pretty decent trade in this draft, right? We converted a fourth and a seventh to a third and a sixth. So
Yeah,
not complaining about
yeah.
that at all.
Another one. We're like, what the fuck are you doing, Houston? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't complain about that at all.
So,
Houston's trades were horrible.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that right there. If
Well,
that's what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean I think it could also go ahead of all these, honestly. But back into the first.
I'm okay with it right there.
Good.
Bottom of 8. Yeah, I'm okay with it right there.
Okay. Minnesota, only 5 picks, but they started with Donovan Jackson at 24. Then Ty
Great
Felton,
pick.
receiver, all the way in the 4th round. So they didn't pick at all day 2. Oh no, this was a
Great pick.
compensatory pick in the 3rd round. Okay, they had 1.
Yeah.
Then Tyrion Ingram, Dawkins, defensive tackle. Kobe King, linebacker, and then Gavin Bartholomew, tight end.
I mean, I love the Donovan Jackson pick, but they just, they didn't have a lot of picks to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And just, I imagine just when BPA, according to their boards, not like they have a lot of needs either.
I like the first 2
Donovan
picks
Jackson.
a lot.
this-
I think Ty Felton's a solid value, solid
I
pick
agree.
there as
I
well.
agree.
The day 3, I don't really care about that much, and that's kind of a problem again when we're talking about a team with only 5 picks, and then the whole half of their draft class is like, whatever. At least for me, it is. Yeah.
Hey, this draft class still has to be higher than Atlanta for me. This is a better 5 picks than Atlanta had, especially when you factor in trade.
I think when you factor
I
in
don't
the
know.
trade,
No, dude.
I think so.
No, dude.
When you factor in the trade,
I think.
you have to remember
I
too,
think we're
they
s-
traded away a pick to trade. They traded away a pick to get Sam Howell, and they still ended up with more picks than they started. I think that's another thing too. Like that's pretty cool. They started with 4.
They executed this very well.
Yeah.
I think we're sleeping on Xavier Woods for the Falcons.
I think you're sleeping on Ty Felton at 102. That's insane value.
Okay.
That guy is in the top 60, 75 players of this draft.
I'm totally cool with the head of Atlanta.
I personally wouldn't do it, but if you guys want to do it, I'm not gonna say no to it.
All right.
That at first for a second is
We'll
funny.
move on. No, you both were sitting still. That scared me. We'll move on. New England Patriots. Pick 4. Will Campbell, tackle.
Fucking phenomenal.
Travion
draft,
Henderson, running back. Kyle Williams, receiver. Jared Wilson, center. Craig Woodson, safety. Joshua Farmer, edge. Braden Swinson, edge. Andres Borregales, kicker. Marcus Bryant, guard. Julian Ashby, long snapper. And Kobe Minor, defensive back. Listen, this
That's a
AFC
phenomenal
East
draft.
killed it.
That is a phenomenal.
this
draft, dude.
this
I hate
top
to say it, but
pick from their first pick to their
That's a
7th
crazy
pick
draft,
is
bro.
insane.
Swenson,
And the fact that that's
it's
a
phenomenal
normal
draft.
size, that's an average size class, 7 picks, and they had 7 in the first. Like this is round 5 where they got Braden Swinson. That's insanity that they got Braden Swinson in round 5. Like how does he fall that far?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but it's an S tier class. I hate to say it, but
Is it easily an S tier
Yeah,
class?
and
Yeah.
I don't care how much they fucked up this back end here with
Yeah, I don't care
taking a
about it.
kicker
That top
and a
is so-
long
yeah,
snapper.
I don't
Like
give a
this
shit.
this
I
top
don't give a
7
shit.
is unbelievable.
yeah, I just don't give a shit about it.
They might have
Especially-
legitimately taken everybody on their board.
Maybe
And
yeah.
Brandon Swinson might be the seal of the draft. Might be the seal of the draft.
I might prefer this over Dallas actually.
I do for sure. Shit, it might be over
I think-
Arizona, dude.
This is the best draft class so
Yeah,
far. in my opinion.
it's over Arizona. It has a bit. It just has more volume than Arizona. Arizona is, probably has single best 2 picks maybe out of round 1 and 2. But
But the Patriots have 2 of those.
Exactly. I think New England is probably the best class.
New Orleans Saints, Jacob. Real quick, I'm
First
gonna.
said cool and then doesn't move it
Oh
up.
my God.
Oh, did you argue in favor of that too? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
yes, he did.
Okay.
Cinema, the Saints took a good draft class.
I disagree with moving them ahead.
Tyler Shaw is.
With moving them ahead
Come
of
on,
Arizona,
dude.
I disagree, but it's okay.
Okay.
The Saints have a good draft class, boys.
So
I can rejoice.
they took.
Regardless, the Tyler. Yeah, go
They
ahead and say the
started
picks.
with Kelvin Banks Jr. tackle, Tyler Shuck
Good pick.
quarterback, Vernon Broughton defensive tackle,
Not good pick.
Jonas Sanker
Good
safety, Danny Stutzman linebacker,
Yeah.
Quincy Riley cornerback,
Phenomenal pick.
Devin Neal running back, Molokai Matavau
Not about.
tight end, and Fadil Diggs edge.
I think it's like
If you
a.
look at the Saints, if you look at the Saints draft class and you take, okay, Kelvin Banks at 9, nothing special, but it's going to be a good fit. They have a plan for him.
I think it's a good
If
pick.
he works out at tackle, it's going to be great for the long term, and no one will.
And he's a
bat an eye at
Saints
it.
dude, like physical freak that can move well. You know, I think it's a very,
Mm-hmm.
very Saints like pick.
If he's healthy, that's going to be a good pick. But if
He
you
needs
just
coaching though.
isolate picks,
He needs coaching
if
though.
you isolate Vernon Broughton through Devin Neal, cinema. Day 2 through
Tyler
the start
Shaw,
of day
listen,
3,
with all due respect,
we could.
Tyler Shaw might be the single worst pick in the draft.
No, it's not.
No, because
Not
the
even
worst
close.
pick in the draft is Kelvin Banks at 9. I'm sorry. I had to
Oh,
say it.
come
I had to
on.
say it.
No.
I'm sorry. It's just how.
I like this class.
just how
I
I
like
feel.
this class. It's not my favorite class, but I like it because I like Kelvin Banks. And listen, Tyler Shaw is not a complete scrub. Okay, I just don't think you have to take him at 40. You know.
It's okay. He's going to help them get a top 5 pick next class. It's perfect.
True.
You spend a second round pick now
But-
to get a top 5 pick later.
He could be good. He could be good. I just personally wouldn't use
He is
pick 40 on
literally
him.
Nathan Peterman. Someone else said that too. And I just completely agree. This is another Nathan Peterman, in my opinion. Now, could this Nathan Peterman pan out and be okay? Maybe, but that's what it looks like so far, in my opinion.
I think this is
I-
more Sam Bradford.
You take those.
I maybe. I still like the Nathan Peterman comp, honestly.
And so, what are we doing with this pick, or where are we putting
That's
this
my problem.
class?
Because, like Jacob said, I think a lot of the stuff here is solid. Like Vernon Broughton, really good pick there. Danny
Yeah,
Stutzman in the 4th round is really solid, and it's obviously
Jonas
one of
Sanker
Jacob's
is good
guys.
too.
It's fine. It's early in the 3rd. It's early,
It's early, but he's a safety that has really good tackling skills.
and that's fine. It's a fine pick,
And
but it's early.
and what I want to point out is in this draft class, the Saints took 3 guys who are tackle go-getters, who are dogs, who are going to lift the locker room up, who can build that defense around. And that's Sanker, Broughton, and Stutzman. Those guys can develop into cornerstone pieces of a defense that
Sure.
will be what brings
Each one did 3 different
success.
sections, right? As well.
Sure.
Yes.
The thing is actually developing them, because at the end of the day, like
Brandon Staley's the defensive coordinator.
sure, that's definitely a big part of it. But also, you're talking like, I get it. I like Danny Stutzman as well, but he went in the 4th round for a reason, and Jonas Sanker went late 3 for a reason. And so there's definitely a future where that is possible, that they are cornerstone pieces in this. In hindsight, we look back and this could be a franchise-altering draft, really. Like you could have a franchise tackle, you can have a franchise quarterback, you can have a franchise defensive player at all 3 levels. Like that could be the case. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, for me at least, not a lot of it, some of it, especially because I'm not high on Kelvin Banks at all. He was my 43rd player in the class. I think that's a total reach. Total reach. Josh Simmons would be a way better selection at that spot, just in my opinion. You can argue fit, whatever. That's fine. But again, like you said, this range here, I think they did a good job there.
Imagine, because Alfred Collins went 2 or 3 picks after Tyler Shuck. Imagine if it was Alfred Collins instead of Tyler Shuck, and you have Collins and Broughton with the rest of that defense. That's
That
now
would be
that's
funny.
a
Yeah.
near S tier pick or draft class if it wasn't for Calvin Banks in your eyes.
Maybe. Maybe.
But
It really depends
I'll
on.
put it.
I think this is mid to high B
Mm,
tier.
I was gonna say this exact same thing. Probably leaning mid B though.
Yeah, I would
Ahead
put this
of.
above the Lions but below the Panthers.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
I think it's very fair.
All right.
I think a lot of teams had a really good draft this year.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a very deep class and a
You
lot
know,
of
you're
positions.
very light on receiver, but you're heavy in a lot of other foundational spots. So it
Oh, and
makes sense
sorry
to a
for
degree.
talking bad about the Schauf pick because Jackson Dart at 25 is definitely the worst pick of the draft.
No, you're just wrong, and here's why.
Not even close.
The Giants, they selected Abdul Carter third edge. Then they traded up into the end of the first round. Select Jackson Dart, quarterback.
I don't like them. I don't like
Then
them.
in the third round,
It would have been way worse if it was Shador.
of course.
I'm not saying that it had to be Shador, but I just don't like Dart.
Then Darius Alexander,
He's QB
defensive
too.
tackle. Cam Scatabo, running
Good
back.
pick.
Marcus Mbao,
Good pick.
tackle. Thomas Fadone, the second tight
Good
end.
pick.
And Corey Black, corner. This
Marcus
this
Mbao
an-
is
this
a
is an
phenomenal steal.
This is an
Mbao is a
excellent-
phenomenal steal.
Yes, I wanted the
Excellent
Niners
class.
to take him because we had a wealth of day
It's an
3 picks
excellent
and
class.
we passed on him twice.
It's an excellent class.
Yeah.
For sure, high A. At
This is
least.
S.
Yeah, high
If
A.
not,
This is an S. I get it. I get that they traded up,
can't-
and you don't like
I
Dart,
can't put
but
Dart
I
in S.
like
I
Dart.
can't put Dart in S.
And actually, it is concerning because of the Brian Daboll coaching staff that's there and getting the worst out of a quarterback. But I think
I already didn't like Dart, and then I saw this stupid interview with Gruden, and I was like, this
you
guy cannot be an
overreacting
NFL
that.
quarterback.
You cannot be overreacting.
I'm not
that much.
overreacting. I'm not. Listen, I can't. I don't look at this dude
Bro,
and I say
Kyler
this is a
Murray does
franchise
the same
quarterback.
thing.
I don't look
Kyler
at this
Murray
guy
in
and I
college
say,
was a clapper.
dude,
That is the
his
easiest
dummy
thing-
clap is
That
purple.
is the easiest thing
His
to
dummy.
adjust at the NFL level. Every team has a different cadence. You cannot
Dude,
be
this
harping on
idiot-
that pick.
this
You are
idiot-
harping
this
on
idiot
that.
told John
No,
Gruden-
no, you care about that so much
Bruce,
because you
he
already hate
told-
him and you're using it as confirmation bias. That's the only reason you're talking about this cadence right now.
that's fine, and
No,
that's fine.
no, it's not.
He told
It's
John
not okay.
Gruden.
I won't let
he
you get away
told
with it.
he told John Gruden. He told Gruden to do it, bro.
Oh my god, he's having fun.
No.
It's a silly
Oh my
little interview.
god, get out of here, bro.
It's a
Does he not know
silly
who John
interview.
Gruden is,
Oh
bro?
my god. He's trying to
Barufi, you
have
cannot
some camaraderie
hold that
with
against
someone.
him, but also
Okay, well, obviously I'm overreacting to the media, okay,
Yes.
but I just don't like Dart as a prospect. I
And
don't like
that's
Dart
fine.
as a prospect.
I get that.
But you also can't use that against him because you like Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray literally had a false start issue from his clap cadence.
Okay, I'm just shitting on the clapping thing, okay? I love Kyler. I like Kyler way more over Dart as a prospect, everything.
That has nothing to do with it. They're way different players. I'm just bringing up the clap cadence in general.
I'm
You
just shitting
totally
on the
missed
clapping
point.
thing.
Look.
This is an S tier draft.
Yes, it is.
High A for me.
I mean,
Like,
every
you guys
pick,
can have S, whatever.
outside of the Dart pick, because we'll just for argument's sake, but every other pick here is like borderline a
Phenomenal.
steal,
Phenomenal.
if not just
Phenomenal.
a great selection with good value. you know?
Mbao is another top 5 steal in the draft.
But my thing
Crazy
with
steal.
the Dart pick is if you love a quarterback that much and you're going to go up to get him, and I
100%,
applaud the fact that
100%.
they go up and get him. They're decisive in that.
No, that
They
yes.
don't want to wait. So I like that as well. And we don't know. Maybe someone else was trying to trade up to get Dart as well, and they were the guy. They wanted their guy, right? So I don't mind it at
I
all.
also think that Dart is a good scheme fit for that
Sure.
coach. Granted, Dable might not be there next year, but him having a year to develop and in a scheme that I like him fitting in, I can't hate on that at 25. It's not like they traded a future first round pick to trade back up into the first round.
Okay. I think I prefer it over the Chiefs, maybe over the Cowboys as well.
Not over the Cowboys for me.
Not over the Chiefs for me, but up to you guys.
All right, that's the happy middle right there.
I have it right there.
The Jets, they picked 7th overall.
Also a great draft.
They selected Armand Bembu, tackle, Mason Taylor, tight end,
Dog.
Azariah Thomas, cornerback,
Dog.
Arian Smith,
Dog.
receiver, Malachi Moore, safety, Francisco
Dog.
Mauigoa, linebacker, and Tyler Barron, edge.
I
Dog.
hate this class for simply 1 point, 2 points. Marlon Mambu was a top 5 prospect in the class for me, and of course the fucking Jets take him, and they fucking take Mason Taylor. They can fuck themselves for taking Jason Taylor's son. Okay, they can fuck themselves for that. But
Dolphins
seriously,
should have
the
done it.
phenomenal class, huh?
Great draft class. I said Dolphins should
Phenomenal
have done it
class.
if you got to beef with it. But no, this is an amazing class. The AFC East is
Yeah,
all A plus tier or A tier plus. So congrats to the AFC East.
So,
Dolphins had the worst class and it was still great.
well, my question is like, I love the stuff here, but their day 3 is
My
Zari Thomas
favorite
is a
pick is
phenomenal
Azare
pick.
Thomas.
yes, but their day 3 is uninspired for me at least. The Malachi Moore pick I like, but the other 3 there, I just don't care about it at all. So I don't know if I'm in total agreement that like they completely killed it. I think again they did a good job.
I like Tyler Barron.
I just don't. I mean,
It's at worst. I think it's still bottom of A though. I mean, Armin Mambo is that to me is a franchise guy. Like
I don't
change the
prefer it over
franchise.
Buffalo
This is better than the
or the
Dolphins in my
Chargers.
opinion.
Okay, like that's the happy medium then right there, I guess. Because
Yeah,
I
I think
definitely
it's okay with
prefer
me.
these 2 classes over the Jets, maybe even Carolina.
Yeah, but I also had the Bills in A tier. You guys had them in B tier.
Sure, but you're not arguing that the Jets are below the Bills, but they should be an A, right? That's not what you're trying to say.
If I no, if I was picking it, it would be Jets, Bills, Dolphins. I would have Bills above Dolphins too. That's what I said.
No. That's fine, but never mind. You answered my question, but it's okay. Uh, all right. The Eagles up next. They selected Giad Campbell, linebacker, 31st. They traded up
Of
one
course,
pick.
they just had an amazing draft.
They traded up one spot to get him. Don't love that, but pick's good. Andrew Makuba, safety. Ty Robinson, defensive tackle. Mac McWilliams, cornerback. Smail Munden Jr., linebacker. Drew Kendall, guard. Kyle McCord, quarterback. Miles Hinton, tackle. Cameron Williams, tackle or guard. And then Antoine Powell Ryland, edge.
They can't keep getting away with it.
It's
yeah,
insane
at the beginning
how they
here,
just
that's
keep doing
that's
this shit.
Mukuba
tough.
Mukuba 64 is
But again,
that's
I
astounding.
think the back
really.
end here, and again, we're arguing about depth pieces. I don't want to keep reiterating that.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
but it's not that inspired for me. I like the Cameron Williams pick, for example. I think Kyle McCord's a fine backup potential player. Mondon Jr. is cool, but like everything else here, I don't care about. But again, these are steals, really. In the grand scheme.
They're both Eagles, man. They just play like Eagles too, man. It's such a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I would definitely have this
probably
above New York.
I probably agree. I think that's fine right there
I
between the two. I don't know if I have it over Miami.
I don't know. I don't think so either.
I'm cool with it. I have it
It's
above
tight.
Miami. I don't have it above New York, so it's weird for me.
Interesting. See, that's the kind of the conundrum when we agree when we do a consensus one. But I think
I
that's a
think
happy
Miami's draft class affects their team more than Philly's draft class.
That's also like splitting hairs a lot. We don't know who's actually.
I know.
All right.
No, I know.
The Steelers up next. Pick 21. They selected Derek Harmon, defensive tackle. Then
Dog.
all the way in round 3, Caleb Johnson, running back. Jack Sawyer, defensive
Yeah.
end. Yaya Black, right? Defensive tackle. Will Howard, cornerback.
Do not pass the
quarterback,
name
rather.
test. Yeah is. Yeah.
Carson
Yeah,
Brunner.
yeah, Black.
Yeah.
Carson Brunner, linebacker. And then Dante
And
Kent,
Dante Kent.
cornerback. Again, like
Okay.
a day 3
okay,
that I
let's
don't
talk
care
about bad
but
names. Let's talk about bad names. Your first name is Dante. People are about to be like, okay, this guy's about to be lit. Dante's a good name. It's a great start. We got plenty of legendary
Kent.
Dantes, and there's just Kent.
Kent.
Wow, you're hating on Kent.
I'll place this probably low B,
Yeah.
probably. It's a very middle of the
Yeah,
package.
I'm also low B here.
Yeah, so
I love the
like
Harmon
the
pick.
first three picks, I'm a fan of. Not as much of Jack Sawyer. Way too lean for me, but I get it. But this is perfect fit. This is perfect fit, and they were linked to that all day. And I don't mind Will Howard as a backup option. They seem pretty confident that they're going to get Rodgers at this stage, so that's cool. But everything else is like whatever, meh. So yeah, B sounds good. I think I would prefer Houston's class, but Houston's trading is
I think
definitely
so.
such a hindrance on their overall output. I think. So I'm not sure how you guys want to do this.
I still prefer Texans class.
Okay. San Francisco, damn near broke my heart. Damn near
Oh,
broke my
dude,
heart
Anthony, I love your class,
in the
bro.
first round, but
I love your class,
they
bro.
made up for it big time in the second, which I was
They
very happy
fixed
about.
it with the next pick.
But look, at the end of the day, I think the Michael Williams pick is a big
I love
time.
Michael so
It's a big
much,
time
bro.
selection for this defensive line, and I can't help but like it. And the big takeaway from this whole thing, this whole class, in my opinion, with the 49ers is I appreciated how decisive and clear they were with what they wanted. Like with pretty much every pick,
It's very clear what they're trying to do.
they did
Yeah.
not spend more than 60 seconds deliberating. They were on the clock and the pick was submitted immediately. And that just shows a lot of focus. It shows that they're on the same page. And so I really liked a lot of that stuff. And I think that they got in the first 4 rounds basically that they got some really solid like impact players that are going to be filling needs, and they're all on defense. The rest of the Niners class: Michael Williams, edge; Alfred Collins, defensive tackle; Nick Martin, linebacker; Upton Stout, corner; C.J. West, defensive tackle; Jordan Watkins, receiver; Jordan James, running back; Marcus Siegel, safety; Curtis Rourke, quarterback; Connor Colby, guard; and then Junior Bergen, receiver.
All right, Anthony.
Yeah.
I need you to listen to me, okay?
Sure.
I'm going to pull a Mel Kiper,
Uh-oh.
okay? If Michael Williams is not successful, I'm going to retire. I love Michael Williams.
Don't do that, man.
I love
Don't
Michael.
do it.
I love Michael Williams so much.
Don't do
He's
it.
one of. I haven't been
Well,
following. Oh, hold on. I almost dropped
it's okay
coffee.
if he does it
Okay.
because as Mel Kiper
I-
proved that he doesn't have to actually
Yeah,
hold it.
yeah. You
it
can
true
just
to
go
his
back
word.
on your word, time
Listen,
and time
I think
again.
it's been about maybe 6 years that I've been really following the draft and like actually watching tape or like analyzing and having my own interpretation of prospects and such. Michael is not the best prospect I've ever seen, obviously, right? But he's one of my favorites that I've ever seen.
Well, and then I considered at that pick. Obviously, I wanted Walter Nolan, but then I considered at that pick what he does well, and that is what he does well is exactly something that this defense needs. He sets the edge and he
Exactly.
defends the run at a high level. And for
And Bosa needs help, and Bosa
Right.
just needs help.
And frankly, they're the 3 defensive line picks that they took. Alfred Collins, and C.J. West. They're all really high end
C.J.
run
West.
stoppers. And like this team was 29th against the run last year. It's nowhere close to where the old Robert Saleh
Yeah,
defense
Alfred
was.
Collins is the perfect answer to that.
Yes.
As good of an answer as it gets.
So I was a fan of those. And then Nick Martin, like he had a great 2023, got injured in 2024, but we have a needed linebacker now. And so he'll probably
Needed a
split.
linebacker.
He'll probably split time with D Winters early, but D Winters also has had injury issues throughout his whole career. But like he feels like a Dre Greenlaw type of player. Now I'm not suggesting he's going to be Dre Greenlaw, but he could be. We don't know. But it feels like that's the vibe that they wanted, and that's the vibe that they got from Nick Martin. And then Upton Stout, undersized, but he's going to play slot. They want Lenore to play exclusively outside, so that fills that too. And I think based on how thin the defensive depth was, it was really nice that they addressed pretty much everything that they needed to on day 1 and 2. And then, day 3, a lot of depth stuff, a lot of flyers, flyer on Curtis Rourke. Junior Bergen's only going to make the team if he's a good special teamer. In camp, that was pretty much his whole upside thing. He had like 8 punt returns collegiate career, which is pretty cool. But Connor Colby could start at guard, frankly, based on who's starting right now, Ben Barch, and so that's going to be a cesspool of camp battles there. But Look, at the end of the day, I couldn't help but feel a little bit disappointed, especially on the day 3 stuff. It's a lot of guys that I just didn't really know much about.
I was just gonna touch on that. Yeah.
I didn't know much about
Still
going
for
into the
me,
draft.
high end B, maybe low end A.
I think it's a B. I think
Just I
honestly,
love this.
it's funny that Jacob and I our teams are right here, but I think it's right there with New Orleans,
Yeah,
kind of.
I'd say it's above my team still.
It's above New Orleans.
Okay.
I put above Carolina personally.
Bro's gone
That's all
mad.
right.
Dude,
Seattle.
I don't think you guys understand how much I love the Michael Williams pick.
No, wait. I think we get it. You've been hammering it.
Yeah,
You've
dude.
been hammering the
You
table.
You don't
it's
need to
one-
tell us.
Michael Williams for months.
It's one of my favorite picks in the entire draft. Yeah,
All right.
I couldn't tell.
yeah.
All right. The Seattle Seahawks up
This
next.
is another pretty good draft right here.
They selected 18th overall, and they went with Gray Zabel, guard center.
Dog.
Nick Emenwari, safety. Elijah Arroyo, tight end. Jalen Milrow, quarterback. Riley Mills, defensive line, defensive tackle. Torrey Horton, receiver. Robbie Outs,
Torrey Horton.
tight end. Bryce Cabledew, guard. Damian Martinez, running back. Mason Richmond, guard. And Ricky White, the third receiver.
I think it's a very solid class. I love the Gray Zabel pick. I love the Emanowari pick. I think Milrow pick has some upside. It just tells me that they're not all in on Darnold, and Milrow is
You
a guy
can't
with
you
upside.
can't be
right?
all in
Okay.
on Darnold. I don't think.
No,
you
but
can.
I mean, I'm glad
I
I'm glad
agree.
they're showing that, right? I'm glad they're
Yeah,
showing that.
and I'm glad that they're doing this now, where until they have to get desperate with something.
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And it is a guy with upside. I just said that right. Sit behind Darnold, and
He has traits.
Um,
You feel like you can
he
coach
has
him.
traits. I like the Horton. I like the Tony Horton pick. I like the Arroyo pick. I think this is pretty solid. Martinez pick even.
I don't care for the
Pretty good, I
Arroyo
think.
pick. I like Arroyo, but I don't know about Seattle's
Early
fit.
for sure.
And it's definitely early. Yeah. So I'm not as big
It's
of a
early,
fan. He's a fine player, but again, early and not sure if it fits at least what I'm imagining their offense is going to be. But Gray
I'll
Zabel,
go-
solid. It's what they should do. Emenwari is a good player. They traded up for him, which was a little bit interesting.
Probably go high B here. I think
I'm cool with B.
probably below the Bills.
I think I think I might prefer my teams over Seattle. No bias.
That's okay. I think it's okay. I actually probably agree. Yeah, I think it's perfect right there.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Where it's at right now.
Tampa, we have a little bit of a wild card with their first pick. Emeka Buka,
One of my
receiver.
least favorite picks.
Benjamin Morrison, corner. Jacob Parrish, corner. David Walker, edge. Elijah Roberts, defensive tackle. And Tez Johnson, receiver. They took 2 slot receivers. They took multiple corners. So Parrish is going to play the slot. So it's going to be like Zion McCollum, Morrison, and then Parrish in the slot maybe, if he wins the job day 1. David Walker's a really cool pick on day 3. He's a Central Arkansas player who had a ton of production, but a small school. So, they think they have traits that can translate. That's really cool. He probably should have gone earlier, honestly, if you watch the tape.
Yeah, I like Walker and I like Morrison. But Egbuka,
I don't like taking 2 slot receivers when you already have.
I don't know, man.
You already have Chris Godwin, who plays mostly slot, and then you have McMillan, who plays a lot of slot too. Even though I profile him as closer to a Mike Evans than a Chris Godwin, but I digress. I don't know. It just feels very redundant, but they must be in love with him. Maybe they see that he has a lot of upside outside.
They could have gone. I mean, they got Morrison, but instead of like Buka, there's plenty of picks I would have preferred over. It's not a bad pick, but
I feel like they, for a long time,
I don't know.
mocked Giad Campbell, and I thought that would have been a fine pick there.
I thought it would have been a phenomenal pick.
Yeah.
Or Schwessinger, if they somehow preferred Schwessinger, I thought that could be a pretty good pick as well.
Sure. The Tez Johnson pick, it's a nice story, and I get it, and whatever, but it's just not exactly a player that I would draft ever, really.
He shouldn't be
size.
on an NFL team.
And it's unfortunate because it's just his size. Like he's a solid, like he can play, but I just don't know how he fits into the NFL
Yep,
level at all.
that's
Really.
valid.
But again, that's a seventh round pick. Like not gonna. Um, I think it's fine. Like
I
they
think it's
have
like C
players.
tier. I
They
don't
got
know.
players, but it's not that inspiring to me. I would say it's below the Vikings.
Uh, it's below Atlanta for me, even between Atlanta and Cincinnati for me.
I would definitely put it below the Bengals. I think it's right above the Packers for me.
Wow,
Okay.
I don't disagree.
All right. Tennessee Titans. They of course selected first overall. Selected Cam Ward, quarterback. Olawafemi Oladejo, edge. Kevin Winston Jr., safety. Shamari DK, receiver. Gunnar Helm, tight end. Eligai Manor, receiver. Jackson Slater, guard. Marcus Harris, defensive back. And Kalel Mullings, running back. Look, it's the pick that they should make at one. It's a really, really
Yep.
good player.
I like Winston a lot at 82. That's a phenomenal pick.
Kevin Winston Jr. is solid. I'm not as high on him. Definitely had
Yeah, but
when
crazy
did
value
when
still.
did wasn't Watts still on the board? I definitely would have preferred Watts.
I don't think Watts was on the board.
Okay, someone was still on the board at that pick, and I was like screaming them. But Oladipo, that's early. That's a developmental
It's
edge
early,
rusher, but
It's
there are
early.
traits that you
but
like there.
it is a team under development ish, so maybe they're banking on that development.
I guess so, but I don't know.
I
just
don't
feel
like I don't like doing that.
Yeah. Like, you're not in stage. Maybe you still are in stage one. I don't know. But you feel like you got a franchise quarterback. You just took him first overall.
You have to get you have to get pieces that, especially on the defensive side, you want something more solid that is gonna help your QB. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it is
look,
a position
look,
where
I mean,
development occurs.
at the same
right?
time, Gunnar Helm went about probably right where he should have, and that's a solid pick.
Ayo Manor's a
Io
good
Manor
pick.
at round 5 is really, really good. I mean, borderline steal, honestly, based
Yep.
on what he does. Like nothing here is bad. The DK pick, whatever. If you like the guy in at round 3 compensatory, whatever. I guess I don't know.
I think this is like high B.
I would not put it high B because how much am I going to reward them for taking Cam Ward first overall? Like that's the pick. That
I don't know
should
if you have
make.
to
the
reward
Saints
them for the
draft is better
pick.
than
That's the
this
pick they
one.
should make, and it's a good pick. But that pick in itself is just a B pick. Like I'm not going to give them an A for that pick. You know what I mean? And the same thing with a lot of this stuff. Like I feel like they took some guys early. I feel like they took some guys that should have been long off the board, right?
So,
So
can
it's
we shake it on Lobby?
it's really all over the place. I'm definitely mid to low B. I think I prefer the Lions, or I think I
Definitely
prefer
have
this
it
over the
above the
Lions.
Steelers.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And last but not least, certainly, is the Washington Commanders, and they only had 5 picks as well. But man, if this isn't a home run of a 5-pick draft, they took Josh Connerly, tackle, Trey Amos, cornerback, Jalen Lane, receiver, Kane Medrano,
Dog.
linebacker, Ja'Cory Krosky
Dog.
Merritt, running back.
Yeah, just 5 dogs.
I think this is really a pinnacle of a 5-pick draft. I don't know if it can get much better than this with this few
and
picks.
the address needs really, really well
Yeah.
as well. It's not
And I
just
mean,
the
like,
value,
Trey
it's not
Amos
just the
is a
players.
steal at 61. Like, that's just a steal, in my opinion.
That's an it's an absurd steal too.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I had
It's a
him
really good one.
34th on my board.
Yeah, I had a first round grade on the guy and late second.
This
Right.
has to be the best 5-pick drafts that we've seen.
Yeah, the only reason why I don't rank it higher is just because of lack of picks. But this is bottom A, I think.
I think it's got to be higher. Like, I know that that's not a big haul, but man, they did such a good job.
I just can't put it above. Honestly, the Dolphins are the last team that
Really?
this can go above.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a happy medium, I guess.
Yeah, I can't put it higher than those guys.
All right. Fair enough. So
Yeah.
that
Really good,
is
though.
our tier
Great
list.
finish.
I'm just gonna really quickly rehash our order here. So we have the Patriots with the best overall draft class consensus here. Then right after that, at number 2, the Arizona Cardinals. Then after that, the Dallas Cowboys at number 3, the New York Giants at number 4, and then the Kansas City Chiefs at number 5, and that rounds out our S tier. Then we have an A tier. At the top of that is the Chicago Bears, then the Cleveland Browns, then the Las Vegas Raiders, then the Baltimore Ravens, then the Jacksonville Jaguars, then the Washington Commanders, the Miami Dolphins, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the New York Jets. At the top of B now, we have the Buffalo Bills, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Carolina Panthers, the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, the New Orleans Saints, the Tennessee Titans, the Detroit Lions, the Indianapolis Colts, the Houston Texans, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then, to round it out in the C tier, we have the final 7 teams remain, starting with the Broncos, then the Minnesota Vikings, then the Atlanta Falcons, then the Cincinnati Bengals, then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then the Green Bay Packers, and then finally the Los Angeles Rams, we thought were the worst overall draft class in 2025. No D's, no F's, which is nice. But again, like I said at the beginning, I don't think it's very rare that you would get right out of a draft and grade something a D or an F. Because generally speaking, there's going to be at least one pick that a team makes that you really like, generally. But yeah, that's our tier list.
I think that was a really solid way to recap the draft. I love it.
Yeah, I love tier lists. That was fun. All right, you want to give us our coastal call?
Thank you, everybody, for making it this far. We greatly appreciate the people who can stay and give us more time listening. I mean, that changes the algorithm a ton when you have a watch time that's 40 minutes versus an average watch time of 2 minutes. So if you've made it this far, we greatly appreciate it. Give us your thoughts on the NFL draft. As you saw with what we just did, it can be highly contentious. Teams can go up and down tiers depending on your thoughts on certain players. Kelvin Banks, for example, completely changes the Saints draft, whether you like him or not, because it goes from either a really good draft if you think he's okay, or it's a solid draft if he's not great. So let us know who your guys' favorite prospect was in the draft, maybe who your favorite draft class was, or if you have any massive disagreements with our list, be sure to let us know in the comments, and we'll engage with all the comments that we get. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. This has been Coast to Coast.
See you guys.